Who wants to see the stadium? Who's in?
Okay, well, it's a pleasure to bring up an old friend of mine, old friend of ours. Everybody knows him. I always say this about Chris Robert, Gerard McCallum. They have the unique ability, no matter who they work for, to make everybody feel they're your friend. And that's a unique ability because they're genuine people. And so I want to bring up Gerard McCallum, who's going to introduce one of the architects from HKS, who's going to give you a display and an understanding about the stadium that hasn't been seen before. Gerard, you here? They got you trapped, right? Introduce your friend.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see everyone. I was joking a little bit earlier with Chris. We've done these town halls for well over 10, 11 years, and they've never been like this before. In fact, it used to be hard for us to fill our tables. Now we had so many requests. So thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you again, Mayor Butts, for this opportunity to present the new Hollywood Park project. As you know, we've been working on this project for a little bit over 10 years, and so we had a little tweak beginning of this year in which we added a sports and entertainment district. And I think not to just kind of belabor it, because we've been going a little bit long here, I'm going to actually let Lance Evans, part of HKS, who has been the driving architect for the stadium, and many of the images you've seen in the paper have been generated out of this gentleman here, and he'll give a little background about himself and also the company and what we're going to be presenting to you September 2018. Lance?
Hold on one second, Lance. Nobody wants to go home now, do you? Okay, Lance, you carry on.
I'll promise to keep it quick. And Gerard is generous, but I have a team of architects and designers that are helping us really define what this place wants to be. I show you this slide just to give you a little bit of experience about HKS, and it's not to like float our boat, but these are the three, or will be the three best stadiums in the NFL, and there's a little spot for a fourth one at the end. And I show this to you just so you can understand that each one of those is different. You know, they were designed for their specific place and their specific market. And what we really have here is a promise to everyone here that what we're going to design is creating an authentic expression of what it's like to be Southern California. The building is going to embody this region, this culture. And we did that in a number of ways. First, one of the things we always do at the beginning of projects and designs is think about what are the key aspects of what we're trying to do. Some of these notions, and I'm going to flip through really quickly through the slides, are this notion of the embedded object. We see a lot of civic structures in LA and in the general Southern California regions that do this type of architecture. You look at the Getty, we look at the Hollywood Bowl, we look at Dodger Stadium, how they actually are integrated into the land and become one with the city. I think this is a really important one for us, not on just the fact that, you know, we are in Hollywood, the entertainment capital of the world, but we just happen to be right next door to one of the busiest airports in the world. And so this stadium for us is really a beacon for Inglewood. It's going to be a global stage. It's going to be a destination. People are going to come from all over the world to embody this and watch this stadium and come to be here in this place. This is, you know, kind of quintessential why a lot of us are here in Los Angeles now, is this opportunity. And this stadium is going to embody this idea more than any, indoor, outdoor. I'm going to show you some images and some slides of what the stadium is going to be, and I want you to pay attention to this fact that this is a promise that we've made, is to make this stadium completely open to its environments and its surroundings. So what is this stadium designed for? 2 NFL teams, a capacity of up to 80,000, expandable over that for Super Bowls. We have a flexible venue, able to host a myriad of events and activities. One of the great things, and I'll kind of walk you through how the Kool-Aid was made or how the stadium was developed, was the opportunity for us to incorporate a 6,000-seat performance venue, but also a grand outdoor room, about 2.5 acres, that links the two facilities together and really makes this stadium something truly unique. So I'll walk quickly through what this is. I love this image, you know, just of how we come in and out of LAX, and I do a lot of traveling. I'm fortunate enough to do it. I always sit on the right-hand side of the plane. And I think everyone else that's going to fly into LA, once they do it once, they're going to be on that right side with me. So what is this park? When we came together with Gerard and Mayor, and we started to think about what this place wanted to be, 300 acres of land, we knew that we didn't want to put a stadium in the middle of this property surrounded by a sea of parking. That just wasn't going to fly. The words community, a great place to be, kept going around. And so we decided to put a big public park in the middle of this development, in the middle of the surroundings, and then connect that park with 3 big arcs that connect the corners to make this a very porous environment, something that's connected to the citizens, everyone can enjoy. And then we surround it with the development itself, the stadium up in the northeast corner of the site, retail at the bottom of the page, mixed-use residential and commercial. And what that makes is a really unique and transformative environment, some place that you're going to see. Imagine this from the air or experience it from the ground, the lush landscape, the lake park in the center, being in the retail environment on the edges, and if we're fortunate enough, watching the Super Bowl here in a couple years. So one of the things you saw around the stadium was this unique network of greenscape. And working in association with Mia Lair Architects, one of the preeminent landscape architects in Los Angeles, we developed a story and a strategy for the landscape. We decided not to take unique plants from all over the world, but we wanted to do something that was local to Southern California. And so our stadium is actually going to be kind of educational journey across Southern California. You can see the regions up on the screen on the right. And so when you come here, you're actually going to get a story about what the place is or the landscape that makes up Southern California, makes us love this, this journey. But what it also allows us to do is actually play with the scale. We look at the top right image, that's the west elevation, where we're trying to make a statement about the building and what the building is and what it wants to be. The bottom image you see is elevation on the east, where we're fronting a residential neighborhood. We're trying to be good neighbors and decrease the scale of the building. And so our landscape allows us to do that. We're allowed it to shed the building as much as we can with a network of lush vegetation. One thing I have to mention with all that landscape, though, is it's not only educational, but it's water-wise. All these plants are native to the region, and we're going to be really responsible with the way that we treat that. And so this is kind of the nuts and bolts of why we're building what we're building. And it's all the myriad of events. You see the Super Bowl, you see the potential for a Final Four, but you also see the opportunity for a farmer's market or a kids' flag football game. That's something that's very important to us, is this notion of scale, that this thing has to be extremely scalable, the stadium. I'm going to go through this really fast just to tell you about how the stadium itself was derived. We can't limit the fact that we are actually next to LAX, and so we have to acknowledge that. And we've actually embedded the stadium in the ground, just like our kind of ancestors with the Dodger Stadium and the Getty, as we mentioned. But what it did here is it allowed us to really be a great neighbor. Where a stadium would be 300 feet in the air, we're allowed to really reduce that scale and becoming something more appropriate to the neighborhood itself. We wanted to know that, or wanted to ensure to have all these events that I just described in the slides before, that we were actually able to do so. And so we put a great canopy over it. We're calling it a canopy, and it's not an enclosed stadium. And so what we had to do was really sculpt and define what that canopy wanted to be. It was informed by all those drivers that I mentioned in the past, the coastline of Southern California, the sweeping curves, the energy of a wave, the energy of the freeway system. All these things kind of came together for us and really embodied what the stadium was. We then kind of tweaked the design and the roof itself to allow for structural or lateral stabilization for this region, and a place was very important to us to strategically tie this stadium into where it is. We supplemented that with a series of vertical columns. They allow us two things. This is a very different form of the building. And so what we wanted to do is put a little nostalgia in. So we have a series of vertical columns that wrap around 3 sides of the venue, kind of echoing the past. And I think you guys walked through a venue very similar to what I'm speaking of today. And then materiality. We divided the canopy into 2 big main moves. One was an ETFE roof, a clear, transparent roof, which allowed ultimate connectivity to the sky and to the environments. And the second was a perforated metal skin. And the skin itself is going to allow light and air to filter in and throughout the stadium. So you get a kind of ever-changing pattern of shadows as you go throughout the day. And, I haven't mentioned any walls, and I've said this is going to be completely indoor-outdoor, and that's our goal. This is truly just a canopy. All the concourses will be open to the environment, connected to the landscape, connected to Southern California. It's going to be truly unique, one-of-a-kind venue that we have. And as I mentioned, the programmatic synergy, there's 3 venues really that are here. We have the performance venue, the outdoor room, and the stadium itself. All could be working in tandem, all could be working independently. I think it gives us amazing flexibility for what this place could be. So a little bit about ETFE. If you don't know it, this was actually a material used on the water cube in the Beijing Olympics. But what it is, it actually has all the qualities of glass. It allows all the light to come through the glass does, but it's 1% of the weight. And so that allowed us to create one of the lightest roof structures around for such a large scale. You can see that on the diagram here, this is kind of what we do as architects to describe how the building's put together. The ETFE is on the top layer, and then it's followed by a series of layers that we kind of build what we call, the enclosure of the machine with the perforation, the metal. And what that does, though, is it really defines, the stadium itself. You see one of these anchor points where the roof touches down, and the southern end kind of take off in 2 different directions. Each one of these 4 arcs around the stadium really define the entries into the building. And so we don't have these are the main identifiers for it, but it also allows connectivity into the other spaces and places of the site, like the lake park here you see on the left-hand side of the image. And I talked about this notion of scalability. We designed it for 100,000, 80,000 seats, but 100,000 people potentially. But it also has to be, a nice place to be on other events. So this might be a red carpet event or a premiere happening at the performance venue, something that's scaled appropriately. This is my favorite shot of the whole venue. This is showing kind of our view looking back to the Hollywood Park. If we were in the Forum looking back, you see the long, kind of smooth, graceful arcs that's kind of connect the 2 anchor points here on the northern elevation. And those arcs are cascading down, if you look to the left-hand side of the page, and followed by a series of those vertical columns. And as they go down, what they define is really a different character on the opposite side. This is the eastern side of the stadium, which faces the residents to the east. The stadium actually lowers its stance, and that's something that was very important to us and a really benefit of us going in the ground 100 feet. Like if we put Cowboys Stadium right next to this and we did a comparison, it would be about 100 foot taller than the image that's on the screen, or about twice as big as what you're seeing there. So it was a really great opportunity to allow it to happen. This is a wonderful shot looking over the lake park. You could kind of imagine yourself sitting there on a lazy Saturday afternoon having a picnic, really with this stadium in your foreground, as your background, and just the wonderful opportunities that it entails. And so how do you get in there? I was showing you 2 of the main entries. This one's on the north. What we've done is we've embedded the access points all along each one of those touchdowns. And so we have a series of stairs, escalators, and elevators that will take you up and around the stadium, allowing you to kind of get up close and personal to the skin. Allow the light to be dancing off your face, allow you to feel the air pass through the movement, really allowing that connectivity. You see the landscape is going to be continued and sprinkled throughout the concourses. I think this stadium is going to be no longer, you're walking into a concrete jungle. But this is going to be pretty transformative. The idea of the park continuing into the stadium itself is really key. This is the outdoor room. So this was looking through into Lake Park into the space, and this is how the majority of the people went into the stadium. Underneath this massive canopy, 2.5 acres in size, something that's really scalable and lovely as it relates to the functions and activities that could happen in the space. Your water features cascading down, the steps, landscape happening on multiple levels, and you could see all sorts of events, community events happening in this space. The circulation for other avenues, we call these canyons, but since we're going in the ground, that 100 feet, we wanted to really add the landscape and allow that language to transform and continue into the building. So you have a series of these around the stadium itself, each one of them different, each one of them size and space appropriately and connected to the landscape language that we were describing earlier. And so that takes us to the interior. Completely immersed in the latest technology, completely connected to the outdoors with the ETFE roof, completely able to see through and connect to the local community with its open ends. You really create, a really lasting impression about what this is. And, for us, this really is, it's not a stadium anymore. We call this the next evolution of sport. So thank you guys.
So the question always comes up, are we in a race? Wilson Meany builds quality communities throughout California. And most of those transformed communities. We built the Ferry building in Northern California, and if any of you know about that building, people said, oh, they would never go across the railroad tracks. And now it's the third largest destination place in San Francisco. It actually now is part of the covers of the magazines that announce your arrival into San Francisco. We will take the time necessary to build a quality community for this community of the city of Inglewood. Our target date is to start this in December, and we plan to have this open September 2018. But besides the sports and entertainment district, there's actually a lot more to this than parking lots. We are building close to 800,000 square feet of Class A office space to go along with this. That was not possible before in our first iteration before with the project. We've also expanded the retail center another 150,000 square feet so that it becomes really analogous to the Grove and to 3rd Street Promenade. This is a very robust project. 2,500 homes are also scheduled to be built on site, over 26 acres of public park space that will be available to you, the citizens. And then in addition to that, hotel space. That's what everybody's been always asking about, was hotel space.
Movie theater.
And yes. But what you wind up with is actually a development that is a 24-hour, all-encompassing lifestyle center, that it's more than shopping, it's more than sports, it's more than entertainment of any sorts, it's more than jobs, but it's actually where families come and live and experience a whole holistic lifestyle. And so, again, I want to thank you for giving us this brief opportunity. I want to especially thank the citizens of Inglewood who helped us get this initiative through. We made the play, others are following. We made the play, others are following. Okay? Thank you.
One more thing before you go, Gerard. I don't need that. One of the things that was very important to me, and that I feel that we've accomplished, is that like the Forum, even when there's not a game going, the venue's going to be walkable, much like the Getty. And I just want you to expound on that for a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. The landscape, idea and really the ideation of what that was to create a place that was going to be really a wonderful place to be 365 days a year, not just the times or events were happening. That's the idea of scalability that came to it. And you see it in the outdoor room when I showed you images of the steps and how the landscape and the water features walked around. You can almost picture yourself sitting in there on a Saturday afternoon, enjoying your cup of coffee, enjoying spending time with your kids, playing a football, wrapping around, but then also kind of the ability to walk all the way around the facility, completely open and integrated into the landscape grounds to really experience what this stadium was. Traditionally, when we do sporting venues, in the past, you would see a big gated entry denying access into what the stadium proper was. I think those ideas are going to be kind of dissolved in what we do here, and access is important.
Thank you.
And one of the other things I want to also say in terms of, if you remember that image that Lance showed earlier, where the park sort of connected in the very center, kind of almost like a tricentric type of arrangement there. The parks are all interconnected. So the 11-acre park on the back end, Bluff Park, that's close to the 11th Avenue residence, all connect in. And so you're able to walk from that to Arroyo Park, to Lake Park, to Champions Park, all the way through the entire development.
Thank you.